Okay, I guess this is as good as time as any. I'm Wayne Bertola. I'm a lifelong resident of Chicago, and that's about it as far as biography goes. Well, I do the boxes, the frames and things. I do it on the table saw in the garage. But actually, as far as a process, it's not like a rational process, like or with preliminary thoughts or drawings or anything like that. I mean, it's weird, but it's probably similar to abstract expressionism, where things come together and I work through it. In other words, well, this may bounce off of this might bounce off of that, but it's an ongoing thing. I don't have an idea in mind or an image in mind or an object in mind when I start. So, in fact, I mean, a piece might last, like in a state, almost like in limbo or whatever, or in suspended animation for like decades. I mean, it can happen. I always leave the backs so I can get back into them too. I mean, things will always change. I mean, anything. That's why I have a real difficulty dating things, because if I still have it, it's liable to be reanimated or whatever, taken apart and put back together again with other pieces. So it's a give and take. You know, I grew up in a home that we were like, well, my generation was the third generation in the home, and I never knew my grandmother, and my grandfather passed away by the time I was 4. And there was this whole collection of letters, photographs from Europe, well, from when they immigrated, and also sea chests with things that my grandmother had taken. And it was all in a foreign language that I didn't speak, nor did I read at an early age. And it was always fascinated me to try to put a story or a narrative to it. So in some ways, maybe I'm trying to replicate that or find some reason or in my work. I mean, it's sort of like the same ongoing process in a way. And when I use some photographs, it involves a certain, like, in a way of repurposing them to the point where I deface them. I mean, in a way, I mean, I will draw on them or whatever, paint over them. Now, I won't do that with anything that relates to the family.
Right.
But I mean, it's just recapturing that wonder or whatever. I forget who that's the base picture for that. No, I really forget who that line engraving is. Yeah, no, it's an engraving it's an illustration from a 19th century, a Victorian book. It's probably some historical personage. Yeah. I know I do have William Gladstone in one, but yeah. I just hope that it nourishes their imagination, that it does something, that they just relate to it on a personal level. Not anything that that they would say, well, I wonder what this guy's trying to say, or blah, 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 all that. No, I mean, hopefully, it does something for them. In that sense, I mean, that's all I can ask for. I mean, I'm not really have a message or anything like that, or an ongoing narrative per se, but it's something to feed their imagination, hopefully. That they get something out, that they can relate to it on a personal level and an emotional level. I've been kind of pretty well consistent insofar as, interest, and I mean, you probably couldn't really pick out something I did maybe like 30 years ago to something I did like a year ago. If anything, how's it evolved? I don't, that's a hard question to answer, because, I mean, I don't know. I never really, like I say, they're always interchangeable, and some parts are interchangeable and things, so I don't know. I never really gave it much thought where I'm going with this. It's lifelong. I mean, when you're a kid, you do, draw airplanes and battleships, and when you get a little bit older, you get exposed to different things, and you go that route. So I mean, I've been doing these things for, I would say, like close to 50 years. So I would guess that hopefully that's a few years left. So I'm basically self-taught. I had like art history classes in college and things, but that's about it. I mean, my interest, was probably in school was probably with history and literature. So.
And what did you do for a living, or do for a living?
I was a shipping clerk and a traffic manager in a printing firm.
Okay. Did your work ever your artwork ever tie into your work at all, or
No.
vice versa, I should say?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it afforded me the opportunity to, again, to pick up some self-teaching tools in the sense that I learned how to lay out chapbooks and things, and it was a great source of bringing home paper and things for my other pursuit of like publishing little chapbooks and things. So it fed into that, and it gave me an opportunity for learning things. So, but as far as with the constructions and things, no, I mean, nothing.
What's the content of the chapbooks?
Well, there's poetry, basically.
Your own poetry? Or?
No, no, thank God, no. But no. I've done a couple things for an Illinois poet, David Bond from Carbondale, and I've done a lot of stuff for the early modernists, republishing, and did some things on those from the 20s, the Paris expatriates, another thing I was interested in.
Okay. Do words ever find their way into your collages or assemblages?
No, not really. I mean, I do collage the backs of them or something. I mean, sometimes I'll pick up just a phrase someplace or something that, if it adds another dimension to it, just keeps, provokes your imagination. But nothing, in the work, I don't literally illustrate anything. And the three, the constructions, the assemblages. If I was going to do that, I would just, like I said, I would just do the illustrations in the chapbooks. I mean, it's important because I like being in this environment away from the city and things. I have shown in years past in the whole gallery scene in Chicago, and it's a whole different beast. I mean, here it's free from the whole commercial thing and all this of trying to sell yourself. Everybody too there is, I mean, it's like a clique. It's too, how can I say it? I mean, I don't want to seem too harsh, but it's a lot of posers. I mean, and it's a lot of ego-driven, and in an environment outside of that, like the environment here, because I've shown at Illinois Wesleyan about 4 or 5 years ago, and with students, and lately that's what I've been doing. I mean, it's with either at universities or like community art centers and things, which I find is a much more receptive audience, a much more interesting audience, and I think that they bring more to the work, really. And I better, this a more real response, a more, it's just more valid response as far as I'm concerned.